You've probably heard by now that Israel has been experiencing over the last 2 days a huge blizzard, and probably like the largest they're saying in quite a few decades. At the height of the storm, I think about 30,000 households lost electrical power, and just whatever. Just in Israel, we're not used to having large amounts of snow and ice, and we just really, it totally paralyzed large chunks of the whole country, including Nachlaot in Jerusalem, where I live. So I wanted to tell you about, so basically, like, the blizzard started on Thursday, continued on Friday, and also on Shabbat. So I want to tell you about my past Shabbat, which I had been thinking, like, with everything that was going wrong because of the blizzard, you would have thought that this would have been a miserable Shabbat, and in fact, it was one of the most amazing, most wonderful, most joyful Shabbats of my life, and I wanted to explain to you why. So let me just give you some background. This past Shabbat was actually my birthday. Yud Aleph Tevet, the 11th day of Tevet, is my Hebrew birthday. And I found out a few months ago that my husband, unfortunately, was going to have to be away for this Shabbat. There's no way around it. It was something very important, work obligation that he had to spend the Shabbat away. So I knew that I was going to have to spend my birthday without my husband, and that was really, really disappointing for me. And on top of that, because of the blizzard, okay, like as though that wasn't bad enough, because of the blizzard, then my favorite bakery, basically almost the entire shuk was closed. The market where I do my shopping was closed, and so the bakery where I was going to buy myself a birthday cake, like my favorite birthday cake, was closed, so I didn't have my birthday cake. And something that I thought would be like a nice consolation prize for myself, because my husband's away and because whatever, all the things that were going wrong. So I thought that I wanted to go to my favorite shul, which is about maybe a 15-minute walk from my house, to the Slonemer, the shul of the Slonemer Hasidim. And I thought I would go in the evening and in the morning, have my older daughter watch the kids while I went out, and which is something that happens very, very rarely. Very rarely do I actually get to go to shul twice on a Shabbat. And I thought, okay, that'd be like a nice thing to do on the Shabbat, but because of the blizzard, really, you can't move anywhere. It's so, I step outside my house, and just basically like my entire neighborhood is like a solid block of ice. So I definitely couldn't go on a walk, which is like 15, 20 minutes away. So even that I couldn't do. It was like everything was just working. It was just like one thing after another. This was just going to be the most miserable Shabbat of the year. Okay? So let me explain to you what happened. Why, in the end, it became such an amazing, I experienced such an amazing Shabbat. So the first thing was that I woke up on Friday morning, and this is going to sound like bad news. Okay, it's bad news. But I wake up on Friday morning, and right away we have we are a family now, Baruch Hashem, with 7 kids. So this very, very short Friday, 8 of us have to take a shower before Shabbat. So I turned 7 in the morning, I turned on the boiler to heat up the water, and it short circuits my entire house. So I think what happened is that in Israel we have something called a dud shemesh, like a solar water heater, together with the boiler. So when it's too cold, then basically it freezes and the whole thing explodes, I think. So I think that my boiler, which is on our roof, exploded. So we didn't have hot water for my entire family to take showers, for 8 people to take showers before Shabbat. So from very early in the morning, my daughter Mayan, God bless her, she was boiling water in like our hot water heater that we use basically to make tea and coffee and stuff. So she's running up and down the stairs. Like every child got a kettle full of hot water mixed with some cold water and like a bucket, and then they would do. Before I got married, before I became religious, I spent a few months living in Indonesia, and this is actually how people take baths in Indonesia. They go like this. They have a big thing of water. They take like a cup and they throw it over themselves. So that was what the entire Weisberg family did. This Erev Shabbat. The funny thing was, was that because we didn't have our regular thing, because we didn't have our shower, I actually really appreciated it. I was like, wow, well, thank God we have hot water at all. Thank God we have hot water. So actually, like, I felt like I really, really appreciated the fact that I was able to not exactly take a shower, but that I was able to, like, throw some hot water over myself before Shabbat and get clean before Shabbat, and then like everyone in my family was able to take a bath even just with this hot water in a bucket method, and it made me really feel appreciative of the fact that I was able to take a hot semblance of a shower. The next thing was that during the storm, about 30,000 households around Israel lost power. So 30,000 household, I think translated into people, I think it's almost definitely over 100,000 people if you think a mother, father, and at least one child. So at least 100,000 people were living without electrical power in the middle of this freezing cold blizzard. Okay, and we, thank God, I was so worried that we were going to lose electricity. But so, and even to the extent that around the house, I like set up flashlights all around the house, and like lit flashlights just in case our electricity went off. And I was really bracing myself. We have, my favorite food is macaroni and cheese, so it's like my birthday food. So I made myself like these 2 big casseroles of macaroni and cheese for the lunch and Seudat Shishit, to have with my family, and I was really just thinking, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow morning? I'm going to wake up on Shabbat morning. There's not going to be any electricity. The house is going to be like a freezer, and I'm going to have to eat cold macaroni and cheese for my birthday. What could be worse than that, So I was really bracing myself for that, and in the end, we didn't lose our electricity. We had electricity the whole time. And even, up until now, we have electricity. And I just want to say, up until now, still about half the people who lost their electricity have it back. But still, there's around 14,000 households around Israel that still do not have electricity. So I want to, Bezat Hashem, I hope that all those families that are lacking, that are still don't have and are still struggling, that all of them that soon everything will be back to normal, and this state of emergency that Israel is sort of in, I hope that very soon we'll be past it. But it really, really made me appreciate that we had electricity, that the house was warm on Shabbat, that we had even hot macaroni and cheese. It made me appreciate. I just felt so appreciative. I just felt like, wow, we have electricity. I can't believe it. And it wasn't only something theoretical that people had lost their electricity, because half of Nachlaot lost electricity. And Nachlaot is divided by a major street called Betzalel. And half of Nachlaot lost electricity, and half of Nachlaot didn't, and my half didn't lose it. So it was something very, very close to me. Like that. I know people who lost electricity, and I didn't. It made me feel, and I felt badly for those families, and but it made me just feel so appreciative for what I have, that I had electricity on Shabbat. The third thing, and sort of I think the thing that which most dramatically affected my mood on Shabbat and gave me such an amazing Shabbat was the following. I had a very, very crazy story. So our street, I overheard somebody walking by our street, like I think a tourist who had come to see the snow was walking by and said, wow, this street is a graveyard for trees. And it definitely is. About a third of the trees, there's many trees. I live on this old street. It's lined with trees. And about a third of the trees have just fallen down. Like our whole street and our whole little playground is just full of branches and trees. So on Thursday afternoon, I was walking home from the shuk. I was worried that the shuk was going to close on Friday. It was very, very good. I did this because really, very, very little in the shuk was open on Friday, and not still today. Actually, the shuk was closed first because it's a safety hazard. There's so much snow piled on the roof of the shuk. That the weight of the snow is breaking the plastic roofing of the closed shuk. So I was actually there this morning. There was basically nothing open. There was just but the army told me I had the soldiers who were there had blocked off the shuk. It's a safety hazard. No one's allowed to go in there. So basically, back to my story. On Thursday morning, I had gone to the shuk. I had many bags. I was basically bringing back all of my Shabbat shopping home, and I walked by on my street. On my street, there's a really historic eucalyptus tree. It's probably about 3 stories tall, and it's over 100 years old. It's one of the oldest eucalyptus trees I've heard in all of Israel. Is on my street, and I'm walking back with my heavy bags in the shuk, and all of a sudden I feel this. I felt something brush by my face. What was it? It was a huge branch from the eucalyptus tree. It was about, maybe 4 meters long, about this wide, the branch, and a really, really serious branch. And if I had taken 1 or 2 steps further, that branch, if that had fallen on me, I don't even want to think of what would have happened. Okay? It's very scary. So I got home and I told my kids, and my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, she says, Ima, let's say Mizmor LaTodah, which is a psalm that you say when you want to give Thanksgiving, when you want to give thanks to Hashem for something. And so I said, well, what number? She said, don't worry, I know it by heart. So we started saying Mizmor LaTodah, da 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 da, and we said Mizmor LaTodah, right there. And I just felt so thankful, Hashem, I'm alive. I'm not in the hospital, and I'm alive. I'm healthy. All of my limbs are whole. I'm not, being rushed to the hospital. I'm alive. And so it's just all these things, and just the Shabbat. It was just an amazing Shabbat. Aside from the fact that my husband was away, and I didn't have my favorite birthday cake.